to be learned. So, what did we say for the first one? 22.78?
Yeah.
Yes, we all got that one, which was good. What about the second one? 12.8 times 4.2. Did we get 53.76?
Yes, I got 63.
Ooh, 63. Just a bit of adding up. That's it. Bit of adding up. That's all that is. You've got the numbers. Just added up one of the numbers wrong. That's all. Let's see if we can help Shelley out with this one because she gave up with 1.45 times 1.2.
1740 had gone.
Yeah, I would have, yeah, because I had,
1.740.
I couldn't line my one up on my box, but yeah, I had
Yeah?
740.
Do you have all the numbers?
Yeah.
3 decimal places in that one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And the way to check that you've got the right answer is if you just kind of ignore the decimals for a bit. 1 times 1 is only 1. Yeah? So 17, should ding, alarm bell should ring. Yeah? And then you can easily do it, yeah? I'll give you the other 2 answers only purely simply because I have to because of the way that the slideshow is set up. So you can write them down and practice them at your own leisure if you want to. It's entirely up to yourselves at some point if you want to do that. Okay? And then I think on this next page you've got some exam style questions, which are basically just the same, but they're ones that have been taken from an exam paper. You don't have to write them down if you don't want to and do them in your own time. You can do if you want, it's entirely up to yourself. But I think you've got the hang of it anyway. If you want to write them down, write them down. If not, it doesn't particularly matter. Okay? So far so good? You can make numbers up to be perfect honest to do these kind of questions. There's the answers to them. So what about dividing decimals? You thought that was tricky. Here we go. I'm going to leave that up on the board again because we're going to need it. So there are 2 different ways we need to look at this. 2 different ways we need to approach this. Okay? And that's dividing a whole number by a decimal, or dividing a whole number by a decimal, or dividing a decimal by a whole number, or dividing a decimal by a decimal. Okay? So we need to learn the different ways to do this. So I'm going to start off with the easy one. I like to start off easy, and then we're going to make it a bit more tricky. So we've got a question here. We've got an 8-storey building, it's 37.6 metres tall. So, here's our 8-storey building, and it's 37.6 metres tall. Each floor is the same height, so how high is each floor? So, basically what that question is saying to us is, what is 37.6 divided by 8? That's what it's saying, isn't it? Because this building is 37.6 and it's divided up into 8 floors. So the question is, how high is each floor? Well, that's easy, okay? That's easy because it's just a division. We've learned how to do this earlier on. We set it up like the bus stop method. But Pete, what have you been saying all the way through the session? That decimal point's a nuisance. It is. So let's move it. Let's move it from there to there. Directly above it on the answer line. So if you imagine our little imaginary green lines there, if you were using squared checkered paper, it's directly above it on the answer line. There it is. Okay? What do we do now? We just do a normal division. We're using our 8 times table. Oh, I'm not so good with them. Well, that's okay. Let's write them down here. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. Okay, let's do some sums. 8 into 3 doesn't go. 8 into 37 goes 4 times. So the 4 goes here, remember. What have we got left over? 32. 5 left over. That's a decimal point, so we're going to jump past it and we're going to put the 5 next to that 6 there. 8 into 56. 7. 7. There we go, 4.7. Each floor is 4.7 metres high. So when you're dividing a decimal number by a whole number, you just use the normal method that we've learnt. Just making sure that you put the decimal point in the same column as it is, and then you can kind of just ignore it and do the sum as normal, just using the numbers. That's fairly simple, isn't it? Yeah, fairly straightforward. It makes sense? Right, here goes. Starts getting more confusing. We've been given that. We've been given 15 divided by 0.2. Shall we set it up as we normally would do? Okay, let's have a look at it. Well, that don't make any sense to me.
Does it matter which way you do it? Because you don't
Oh,
put
yeah.
15 in the outside.
No. 15 divided by 0.2. Yeah? So we're splitting that 15 up into 0.2s. So when we see that, it doesn't look right. Because this, again, it's a nuisance. It's an absolute nuisance. So what we're going to do, we're going to take that decimal point, we're going to move it one place to the right. What have we actually done to that number? We've timesed it by 10. So now that 0.2 has just become a 2. Yeah? Makes sense? There's a little mantra in maths. Whatever you do to one side of the sum, you've got to do to the other side of the sum. So we've got to now times that 15 by 10. We've got to. So then that becomes 150. So now we look at what we've got. We've just got a normal sum. A normal long division like we've been doing. 2 into 1. That doesn't go. 2 into 15. 7 times, which is 14. 1 left over, put it there. 2 into 10 goes 5 times. And there's the answer, 75. And I can almost hear what's going on in your mind right now. I'm not a mind reader as well as a magician, but I can kind of read what's going on in your mind. You're thinking, hang on a minute, we started with 15. We've done a division, which normally means getting smaller, but we've ended up with a bigger number. How's that work out? It's because we've divided it by a number that's less than 1. 0.2. Yeah? 0.2. Let me get my blocks out.
I'm so confused right now.
Are you
It's not
confused?
doing 15 times tables.
It confuses
I am
everybody.
like, what?
It confuses everybody. Don't worry. Remember, right at the very beginning of this slide, we had a picture on, and it showed you something like this. It showed you a box like that, didn't it? And at this end was 1, and then all these, that was 0.9, 0.8, etc, etc, yeah? And at this end was 0.2, 0.1. 0.2 is less than 1. It's way less than 1. So, this is all about numbers recognition, number skills. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 0 down, 1 to carry. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. 1.0. In 1, there are 5 0.2s. So there's a number 1, and it's made up of 5 0.2s, yeah? So our question was, if we've got 15 and we divide it by 0.2, it's going to give us 75. So if I've got 15 of these lined up, and I'm not going to do 15 because I don't think I've got enough blocks to do 15. But if I had 15 of these lined up, these are, remember, 0.2s. I might have to change colour in a minute. I'll go for purple. I'll just do 5 because 5 is a third of 15. I'll just do 5, number 5. Oh, I'm going to go for green. You've got to be showing your kids this at school with these blocks, you know. So there's 5, which is 3 times less than 15, but we can see how it works. In that 5, how many 0.2s have I got? Well, I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Because you remember, these are 0.2s. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1. There are 5 of them in 1. So if I've got 15 of those, how many of these will I have? 75.
Okay.
Does that make it a bit clearer?
Yeah.
Yeah? So imagine I had 15 of those numbers lined up there. How many 0.2s have I got? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. You did it? Yeah, so on and so forth. That's why you've ended up with a bigger number. That's why you've ended up with 15. But 75. Because you've divided that by a number that's less than 1. Okay? Takes a bit of getting your head around that, to be honest. Most people think, oh, because I've times that by 10, I've got to divide that by 10. You don't. That's the answer. Plays with your mind a little bit. Yeah? Does it make a bit of sense?
A little bit.
Yeah? Just a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah? Just a little bit of sense. And you'll always find, well,
So, you know, on the other one, we move the decimal
yeah,
place and then we have to put it back.
put it back.
So we're not doing
You
that.
don't do with this one.
No.
This is what makes maths so
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah, this is what makes it so much
Because that
fun.
number's not a whole number.
Because
then we
this
don't
isn't
have
a
to
whole
put it
number.
But if it were 2 decimal numbers, then
Then you would
You would
move
put
the
it back.
decimal
right.
point. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was a question on something. I was watching something the other day. I can't remember what I was watching now, and it was true or false. And the question was, must have been a maths, something to do with maths. Oh yeah. When you multiply something, the answer is always bigger. And the answer to that question is no, it's not. Because if you multiply it by a number that's less than 1, it's not going to get any bigger. And it's the same with this. It's the opposite to division. If you divide a number by less than 1, your answer is always going to be bigger. Reverse psychology, so to speak. So, bearing that in mind, now you can see why it's important to make notes and stuff, isn't it? Let's give you this one to do. See if you can suss it. There you go. 78.4 divided by 0.8. Automatically you recognise your answer is going to be bigger than 78 because you're dividing it by less than 1. So, have a go at that one. Follow the same steps. Set it up like I set it up, the other one. Get rid of them decimal places by doing something to it. Do the sum. Do the division. Well, you've already got your 8 times table, it's up there. I'll just continue a little bit for you actually because it goes past 56. There you go. That's it. So you started it off right there. Yeah. So now you're just going to do your normal long division and see what you come up with. You actually put an extra naught. Just cross that naught out because 78.4 times 500 equals 784. Yeah.
Yeah.
Times by 10 something.
Oh yeah, I've not.
You only move the decimal point
I've
one
not put
place.
the point in the
That's
original
right,
thing.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
So you're right now. So you're on
Okay.
with it. So there's your 8 times table. Oh, it's all quiet. Have you done it?
I think so.
Have you done it? You done it?
I don't know if it's right though.
Yeah, done some.
Yeah.
Wow. Ooh, I've got a different number there. 8 into 78. 9 times, that's right. 2, 6 left
Oh,
over.
6 in it,
left.
sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Thoughts.
Yeah.
But you're nearly there. Just a bit of miscounting again.
So then.
So, come on then. Show an answer out for me. Come on.
9.8.
9.
0.8.
No.
No,
No,
it's 98.
0.98.
Just 98.
It's just
Oh,
98.
do we don't put the decimals on?
Don't put the decimals back.
Why have I got
I thought the decimal place back in.
I
that's
don't
why.
know why you've got not. So, did you, first of all, set it up? Pen's running out. Set it up like that.
Yeah.
Times by 10 gives you just 8. Times by 10 gives you 784. 8 into 7 doesn't go, so 8 into 78, 9 times. With a remainder of 6, 8 into 64, 8 times.
I know what I've done because I put because you can't do 8s and 7s, so I put a 0. That's
Yeah,
why.
that's what you did.
So I've gone
So you're going to put a
yeah.
naught, you put your decimal back in,
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah.
They're a bit tricky, aren't they? They're not the hardest thing we do, by the way, but they are a little bit tricky. All you need to think about with decimals is that that's the nuisance. Yeah, that is the pain. Only tiny, but it causes some problems. Yeah, so that's what you've got to think about when you see the decimals, when you see sums with decimals in. Now, luckily, a lot of the questions in the exam that have decimals in are calculator questions, but there are some, certainly division and certainly multiplications, where you will have to do it without a calculator. But even if that comes up, just think to yourself, how do I get rid of that? Because that's the pain. That's what's stopping me doing this particular sum. And what you've got to remember is, when you're multiplying it, you take the decimal out, but then you put it back in. When you're dividing it, you get rid of the decimal, you don't have to put it back in. Alright? If you're dividing anything by a number that is less than 1, your answer will always be bigger, which it is. Remember, the other answer was 75. This answer's 98, which is bigger than that, because that's not even a full one. We've divided it by a portion, by a part. Yeah? Does it make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah? Look at the time. So, that's decimals. That's decimals. Decimals lives in the same house as fractions and percentages, but we're not going to look at those yeah, we're going to look at those next time. We're going to look at fractions next time. Everybody hates fractions. Everybody hates fractions. And they do take a bit of getting your head round. And what we also have to learn to do then is once we've learned that, we need to learn how to convert fractions to decimals to percentages and vice versa. So we're scratching the surface. We're scratching the surface. We've started with the basic stuff. You've seen that what we've done. We've learned how to do some divisions. We've learned about multiplying and timesing, dividing by 10 and 100 to get decimal points out of the way. We've learned about long multiplication, whether that's the lattice method, whether it's the method that you like the best. Alright, if you're multiplying a small number, if you're doing 78.4 times 4, add it up 4 times, it just makes it a bit easier. If you're doing 78.4 times 16.3, then use the lattice method and do something like that. But yeah, so it's all about recognising what you've got, and you need to learn this skill. It's recognising what you've got, and then it's before you put pen to paper, thinking to yourself, how can I make this easier for myself? And the answer to that isn't just turn the page over to the next question. It's like, let me see what I've got. What's the problem? How can I make this easy for me to work out? It just takes a bit of thinking about. But once you get there, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do this. You can practice this kind of stuff all the time. Get yourself online if you want to practice it. There's loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff. Not the most popular thing in the exam, to be perfectly honest, but they're the kind of questions where there should be relatively easy marks to pick up. Yeah. Compared to some of the other questions that you're going to get in the coming weeks, where you're going to think, oh my God, that's hard. Yeah? So far, so good. I'll just turn this off.